Hey, Painful Mess here. I'm gonna do another one of these between videos because I haven't finished the Book of Alma yet. Um, this is mostly material that I've said in comments to people on past videos. People have asked what sorts of qualification I have to comment on the Book of Mormon. Now, aside from the fact that I'm just reading it and telling you what I read, and I'm not claiming to give some officially sanctioned interpretation of theology or anything, I still think this is a fairly reasonable question. I mean, what exactly have been my experiences with the LDS Church? I'm telling you about the Book of Mormon. Maybe you want to know what my background is about this. Maybe I have some huge bias towards or against them or something. I don't know. So I became quite fascinated with the church something like 8 years ago. I don't actually remember what it was that got me fascinated with it. So I had been reading books and articles about it, but I can't tell you any of the names of these anymore because it's been so long. Part of my fascination maybe came from the fact that I grew up really close to Palmyra, New York, which is where Joseph Smith originally wrote down the Book of Mormon. The hill Cumorah is where he found the golden tablets. So probably 7 years ago, my friend and I decided to get information about the LDS Church firsthand from missionaries. And it may have been a little bit surprising to actually have us contact them rather than the other way around. So we did seek them out. They did not just run into us or something. We met with them every week for a few months. This is where I actually got my copy of the Book of Mormon. So I learned a lot about what they actually believe from actual people in the faith. This is not some secondhand information. Now maybe you want to say they were dumbing it down or they were telling me lies to try to convert me or whatever you want to believe, you can believe, but I'm pretty sure they were telling us what they actually believe. I had to do readings every week, but I certainly did not read the whole Book of Mormon cover to cover at that point in my life. Not even close. I barely made it through the sections they wanted me to read within the week time frame. Once we had done all the lessons, we sort of awkwardly declined being baptized and then started ignoring their phone calls because they really want us to get baptized. It's kind of rare for people to actually make it through all of the lessons, I think. And it's a pretty sure thing that you're going to get baptized if you make it all the way through, I think, for the most part. For the next several years, but we were both atheists and we had no intention of joining. We just wanted to learn about it from them, and maybe we should have been upfront about that. I don't know. Whatever. Missionary etiquette was not something that we were familiar with. But anyway, moving on. For the next several years, I retained a passing interest in the church, but it had been fallen way back to the back of my mind. I was, trying to get a degree in math and philosophy and physics, and I was doing a lot of work a lot of the time. So, but at some point, I started doing something that I now think of as probably the best way to try to truly understand a different perspective. And this includes, if you're an atheist, for Christianity, just in general, using art as a way to sort of try to get deeper inside what a culture is like. So there's this entire genre of fictional films out there, which is just called LDS films. And in fact, you can go to ldsfilms.com if you want a good resource for finding out about them. And then there's also this blog that I can't remember who basically reviews every single LDS film ever invented. Maybe I'll link to that if I look it up and remember in the future. So basically this genre is just normal everyday movies, but they're made by church members for church members. So of course some of it is very propaganda-ish, right? You get these things where someone goes and they convert like an entire island of people and miracles are happening. And so there's the standard propaganda type film that you get here, but Um, you also learn a lot of stuff in the sort of real artists who create these films, about the church that you wouldn't actually learn otherwise. These are things that come out in the film basically because it's a work of art, and subconsciously these things are, soaking into the art, or however it works. I don't want to get into a philosophy of art debate, but basically stuff that church members normally would not admit to non-members comes out in these films if it's a real, true work of art that the filmmaker is trying to be honest about. So you learn sort of what's centrally held beliefs and what sort of peripheral beliefs. The LDS filmmakers are really good about sort of making fun of the silly beliefs because, well, anyway, I won't try to get into that. Another thing that happens is you start to learn the internal lingo. You get to, the RM, that's the name of a movie. Do you have any idea what RM stands for? I mean, the LDS Church is filled with abbreviations that I now know pretty well just from watching these movies. So RM stands for Returned Missionary. And people actually do say, here is our new RM to our ward. Most importantly, I actually identify with the characters of these movies pretty strongly due to similar experiences that I've had on my own spiritual journey, and also I am, a member of a distrusted, misunderstood minority group, just like the LDS people. Atheists are quite, atheists should pretty much empathize with the LDS Church when it comes to being distrusted and misunderstood. So maybe this is the bias that everyone's been looking for to figure out why I've taken up their cause so strongly. Some of the films I've seen are The Field is White, One Man's Treasure, The RM, Singles Ward, Singles Second Ward, God's Army, States of Grace, Return with Honor, The Best 2 Years, Saints and Soldiers, Passage to Zarahemla, The Work and the Glory, Parts 1, 2, and 3. I'm actually quite disappointed they didn't keep going. That's a book series that has many more parts to it. It's pretty good. Midway to Heaven, Charlie, Pride and Prejudice, A Latter-day Tale, The Home Teachers, Out of Step, Other Side of Heaven, and many, many more that I'm probably forgetting now. Those are just the ones that popped into my head. So I have watched quite a few. So just to give you an idea, some of the issues that come up are, going on a mission and having someone you're basically engaged to promise to wait, and then they end up falling in love with someone else and marrying them while you're away. What's going on there? Is God punishing me? Things like that. A father saying to their son that they'd rather have them return in a coffin than return without honor. And then that son, just human failing, just common messing up, causes him to not return with honor, and he attempts suicide because of the shame. I mean, this is certainly something that a church member would not bring up to a non-church member. That is a fairly common thing that happens. If you're a missionary and you're going to return without honor, your family is going to be so disgraced that suicide actually seems like a very legitimate option a lot of the time. So these are real problems. How to negotiate falling in love with someone who is not a member of your faith. This is one that atheists can probably identify with quite strongly. The complete mental collapse that happens when you begin to doubt your faith. This happens in God's Army. How to adjust to the imperfection of human beings that make mistakes, and so on. I mean, these are very real, common problems throughout all faiths and all people, but you get to see them happen through the point of view of an LDS church member who is directing the film. So whatever, we are way off topic now. So back to my life. at some point, I decided that I should read the entire Book of Mormon, just to be able to say that I had done it and to know what was actually in it. Because maybe the missionaries were having me read specific portions and avoiding other portions that were maybe more embarrassing. And then there's been nothing for a few years until now, when I decided that I wanted to do this series, and I started reading it again from scratch and sort of researching again and learning more about it again. So over the past few years, I've actually met and become friends with a few Mormons. In fact, my PhD thesis advisor has one other student, and he's a Mormon. So I often room with him at conferences and things. We're pretty good friends. So that's where we are now. Maybe I can start throwing into the mix LDS film reviews or something. Maybe the ones I think are have been the best at showing sort of deep internal ideas and whoa, okay, we're over 11 minutes, so I'm going to end it here. I should get the next Atheist Reads the Book of Mormon up maybe tomorrow. I'm pretty close to the end of Alma, so probably tomorrow or Monday. See you then.